Alrighty. It's an awesome privilege to be here, and I thank the Insight team for giving me this awesome opportunity. And yeah, it'll be a great journey, and I trust you enjoy it. So let's begin. If I had to say, and Pam right in the beginning said that you all got to turn your cell phones on silent, which so far it seems like you've done that, so well done. Joburg crowd, awesome. Yeah, one for Joburg. If you all had to look at your cell phones right now, which I'm sure you won't have to, because what I'm going to ask you, you'll know. If you had to say, what is the health of your cell phone battery life right now? Because of the vital importance that each of us understandably place on our cell phones, we all know exactly where they are. And when it starts that little cool red thing in the top corner, we all start getting freaked out and we start grabbing various things and being able to charge things and figuring out what cables go in where. Why? Because it's vitally important. And so we know exactly in real time what the health status of your cell phone is, understandably. So just preface that. But now, if I had to make it personal and say, okay, well, the person walking around with the cell phone, in real time, how well do you know your metabolic health right now in real time? So just like you can look at your cell phone and go, cool, I know exactly where it is. Where are you right now in real time? And wouldn't it be awesome if you could actually do that? When we look globally in a room like this, filled with medical professionals and some medical people and some medical funds, and even more importantly, actuaries. I don't have to give you the stats on what global obesity rates and, more importantly, metabolic dysfunction looks like. And in South Africa, it's even worse. We rank in the top 10, in the top end on the bad side of it, not really on the good side of it. And so it's catastrophic. But what happens, as I said, if in real time you could actually get some form of indication of how good you were doing metabolically? If you look on my arm, and this is an overpatch over it, and it's this little device that's on my arm is called a CGM. I'm sure some of you already know about it. For those who don't, what CGM stands for is continuous glucose monitor. So what it does is it's a small electronic device with a battery in it, and every minute it takes a blood glucose reading, and it does that 24 hours a day for 15 days, this unit. It varies according to the brands. And then what it does is that, you know your cell phone, that's charged, because we all know that. It then sends a Bluetooth signal to your cell phone and then trends that data, so that you can literally see in real time what your body is doing. And a lot of you will say, okay, that's just blood glucose. But you realize that blood glucose isn't just the nice food that you've eaten. It reacts according to bad night's sleep. It reacts according to how stressed you are. So it's not perfect science, but it's the closest we can get to a real-time data of running what you are running at and how well your health is running at in real time. And the cool thing is, you get it on your charged cell phone. But my story doesn't start there. As you heard from Pam in the introduction, my story doesn't start there. And this is where my story starts. Okay, that's me 15 years ago. And this is one of those cool, like, before and after things. 15 years ago, I topped out at 128 kilos. Generally, I was about 126 kilos. So in the cycling photo in the middle, 126 kilos. Now, you'll see that weight for me is not a huge thing, because I place a lot more weight on the health aspect of it. But if we look health-wise, what happened is that person at 126 kilos was suffering permanently with chronic acid reflux, like you cannot believe. Like to the extent that I would literally have shares in Gaviscon. The crazy thing is about Gaviscon, this is a bit of a sideline tangent. My name is obviously Gavin, so I don't really understand when you take a product that says Gav is gone. Yeah, it's a bit of a problem. But so I don't know if that's a branding thing on my side or their side, but anyway, but yeah. But I lived on Gaviscon purely because of the serious esophageal reflux that I had. For the doctors in the room and anybody who's had acid reflux will know that that causes massive complications in your sinus problems because of the acid shooting up your esophagus and also burns your esophagus, which is really unpleasant. I was also diagnosed as pre-diabetic and on chronic medication, obviously, for those conditions. But as you heard from Pam's introduction of me, as a profession, I am an instrumentation engineer. So I'm an electrical engineer that specializes in instrumentation. And I work in the water industry. And so what that involves me doing is going out to site and working on small little instruments, but that interlock and control massive plants. And I must be able to understand not just how that little instrument works, but how it incorporates into a massive project, because the outcome, let's say the water, for argument's sake, could not be working well, but it could actually be feeding right from the beginning. And being able to advise clients, not just on a design perspective, but more importantly on a fault condition, understanding the entire process. But when it came down to me, this process was a complete and utter failure as a whole. When you look at, understandably in medical science, they always look at your family history. When you look at my family history, metabolically, it's a horoscope, literally. I've had 3 uncles that have died from diabetes, literally. And all 3 of them, went to their graves with less limbs because of the complications of diabetes. I've seen the unfortunate end of what diabetes looks like through family members. I had a grandmother who died from esophageal cancer, which is mainly caused because of acid reflux. And here I was, then in my 30s, going, I know where this road ends, because I can see it in my family members. And so in the end, when I was sitting in the doctor's room and I can place myself there, my well-meaning doctor gave me the prescription and said to me, well, you need to take this chronic medication. And when I said to him, well, for how long? And he said, probably for the rest of your life. And he said, you need to take this because it'll help you manage your condition. And the problem is, as an engineer, I can't go and tell my clients, well, I know your stuff's broken, but you just need to be able to manage the condition. As an engineer, I have to fix the condition. And so I walked out of his office and thought to myself, well, am I economically broken? Am I beyond economical repair? Or is it a case of that I just don't understand the entire process of me? So that started a 15-year deep dive into me, where what I did is I took literally every single medical journal that I could find on subjects that I could, and then literally hunted down rabbit holes and whatever could come across. But as an engineer, you need to understand that if there are parents in the room, if your kid ever decides to become an engineer, you need to understand one thing. That, you know, the 4- and 5-year-old kid that always asks why? The engineer never loses that. So I'm the crazy 50-year-old who continually wants to pull things apart because you want to know how it works. And so therefore, I needed to know how it works. I needed to know how I work. And so what I would do I would read a whole lot of things, and I understand billions of rands that get spent on research and development so that you don't have to run the experiments. I don't really stick to that because I'm an engineer. So you go, okay, cool. So I would read an experiment that was done, and this is how that should happen, and go, okay, cool. That's great. I want to put that to the test and see if it could actually work in me. And so at that time, there were no CGMs, so no continuous glucose monitors. All you had to do was finger prick those little cool glucometer things. And so you end up with 10 fingers that are seriously bruised. And in the end, you can't even actually prick your finger. So in the end, you prick your abdomen because you're wanting to actually get blood out of somewhere because your fingers are so really sore because you wanted to actually figure out. Some of the experiments that I did, just to give you a short interlude to see how crazy certain things are, I do a lot of cycling, and I still do a lot of cycling, and those gels, for those who runners or whatever, those gels that you have, I wanted to know, well, how long does it take to, when you start eating the gel, to get into your system, and effectively how long is the burn? So it's going to raise your blood sugar, and then, well, but you don't really know that because we're in a CGM. So what you do is you go riding with the glucometer in your cycling shorts, and then every 5 minutes, you swallow the gel. Every 5 minutes after that, you finger prick, hands off the handlebars, and finger prick yourself, then take a reading, write it on your stem of the bicycle, and then carry on riding. 5 minutes later, take another shot, another finger, and because I wanted to know, just to let you in, the craziest one I ever did, just as a sideline thing, the craziest experiment I ever did is I read that in your eyes you've got mainly two cells, cones and rods. One of them are affected by low blood sugar. So I thought, okay, this would be interesting to try. So I entered a 70-kilometer mountain bike race, took 0 carbs, purposely wanting to actually see, is this actually possible? Read it, wanted to see. About 3 Ks to go towards the end, that research was sound. Your eyes do go weird, and you do see in sepia and like black and white, so I wouldn't recommend it. It freaked my wife out when I got to the finish because apparently I looked horrendous, felt horrendous. But why I tell you this is that this is the extent I wanted to do because I was desperate. I was desperate for answers to figure out how this worked. That was practical, that came down to hands and feet thing, that it wasn't just somebody's advice, but it was actually provable in my life and provable practically to actually prove the science. What I realized was obviously a few things. One of them was that if you can't see it, you can't change it. So if you can't see it, you can't change it. However, once you see it, then everything changes. And I'm standing here today because everything changed. Everything changed in my life. Once I'd seen basically what I'd seen and in the research that I'd done and played around, it changed my life. Changed my life so dramatically and the outcome of my life. So it's being able to see it, because when you see it, then you can change it. The other thing I realized is that with blood sugar, we all know what those, when I talk about finger prick things, and you could see some of you nodding your heads, you're either diabetic, or you at least know you've gone for that 1 year finger prick test. What I realized with that is that one prick, for want of a better word, that one prick is literally like you and I going to the movies. Okay? Or the bioscope for those who are really old. Okay? And picture this. We stand outside the ticket booth and there is a poster. We love Mission Impossible. Well, I do. And we're standing there and I go, okay, we're not going to actually go into the movie house. What we're going to do is you're going to look at that poster and I want you to tell me how good is the movie. Now you can get a good idea. Cool picture. Usually one line, and you can go, okay, great. That gives you, a guideline. But wouldn't it be awesome if I could tell you, okay, we're not going to do that now. What we're going to do is I'm going to walk you into the IMAX theater. Now, I love IMAX. For those who don't know what it is, it's a Mursa screen, right? And huge Dolby surround sound. It literally makes the place shake. And then you get frame by frame literally viewing of the movie. It's a totally different experience. Okay? A CGM, to put it into perspective, so one finger prick. CGM on a daily basis, for the data guys in here, 1,440 finger pricks in one day. So it gives you a far bigger picture into what is happening in you in real time as you're living your life, not just a single shot. But what I want you to get, and if you fall asleep or not really interested, I understand, but if you only get one thing, please realize that blood glucose isn't just about diabetes. And I understand the link, in science, and I understand the link for the medical people, which I am not. I understand why there is a link between diabetes, but so often people just go, oh, well, it's blood sugar and diabetes, right? Guys, it's about so much more. It's about so much more. And why do I say that? Because behind that curve, that thing that goes up and down according to what you eat and what you do, the blood sugar that spikes around, everybody goes, but it's supposed to do that, right? Our bodies are supposed to go up and down, up and down. No, they're not. But that up and down, what happens over years? Over years, it sets up a condition and it lays the foundation, because behind that there is a curve in order to counteract your sugar, and that's a hormone called insulin. And that is the driving force behind chronic conditions that we are living with today. But chronic conditions that you are paving the foundation for in the future. So your health span, and it's something I'm wildly passionate about. Instead of building a hospital at the bottom of the hill, I would rather put a fence at the top and say, well, you don't have to get there. Because some of these diseases are preventable and also curable by the choices that you make. But that curve is driving most of these diseases. In most of them, it's actually the driving force behind them. And I don't have the time, obviously, to go into why, but they are the insulin is either the driving force in it, or it's a massive contributing fact to those diseases. And I'm sure those in healthcare, you can see that those are literally diseases that are crippling us, and that in our later years, that affect our health span massively. So, to get back to me, again, where am I now? A little bit more active and a little bit skinnier. So I said to you, I was 126, topping out at 128 kilos. I'm now 83 kilos. So 40 kilos less. So for those who, and I understand most of us are weight orientated, well, that's amazing. It's like 40 kilos. But for me, what I lost, which is far more important than the 40 kilos that I lost, is that I have zero reflux. My shares in Gav is gone. Gav is gone. Left the building. And unless I'm standing in front of a group of people, then it may need some gap. Gav is back again for a short period of time. But zero acid reflux. Diabetes, completely and utterly gone. I wear CGMs enough and get my fasted insulin tested enough to know that distant memory is not even a problem at the moment. Chronic medication for the pharmaceutical companies, for the medical aid companies, in the last 15 years, I've estimated, I know it would be progressive because of the type of diseases that I probably would have had, hypertension and various things that would have led to that with the diabetes. But I've saved you about 200,000 Rand over the last 15 years. But I'm not here to be able to go, oh, wow, look at me. Because what I'm here to do is because what I did is that I've become very, very passionate because I saw the change it made in my life. And I saw the difference it made in my life. And so I thought, well, wow. I mean, who am I to not then help other people? And so I started telling other people about this. And I started telling friends, and more importantly, my family, because remember, the family history is quite dodgy, particularly on the medical side. And started helping them, and started realizing, wow, this is not just N of one. That it's not just me, that it's not just being able to replicate in me, but what it is N of 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1. And being able to stop people at the top of the cliff before they ever got to the bottom. And so what I did is we started a company called Ūpgrade Health. And at Ūpgrade Health, what we do is we take evidence-based and generally based on you, because we're wearing CGMs. As I said to you, I'm an engineer. I don't claim, particularly in the medical space, to be any form of expert. And I'm not. And for those who are doctors, you can know, I'm not a doctor. So that's, but what I can do is point you to you. Don't listen to me. Put on a CGM, and in a world where everybody is an expert, and it's so hard to try to decipher, because one day they say this, then the next day they say this, understandably, and in the end, as just normal people, we get quite confused. Have you ever stopped to try and listen to just you? And with the power of a CGM, in the end, that's it. It literally gives you the real-time data of you. Take away all the other. And so we started a company, and you'll see that the you in it, in the Ūpgrade, is based on you. Because it's emphasized because you are important. And you are the one that's going to have to, as it were, live with your health span problems from the choices, as it were, that you have made. And so you see our slogan is "You Only Better." And this is not just one of those cool motivational like one-liners. Yeah, it sounds so great. Because I thoroughly believe, and I've seen it enough in the people that we've worked with, that in each of us, there is somebody, and you are that person. And you could be so much, I love that so much thing. You can be so much better. You could be so much better than you are now. Instead of surviving, you could literally be thriving. And by certain choices and adjustments, you could literally do that. I've seen it enough, and I've seen it in my own life to be able to say it's actually doable. So as you saw in the intro, putting on a CGM is like turning on a light in a dark place. And it sounds really weird, but it literally is. It's being able to take the invisible that before a lot of people were even aware that actually blood sugar actually fluctuates. And by the way, when you wake up in the morning, why is it some people a little bit higher? And when I get stressed, would you like to see what stress does on a CGM? You can actually see it if you're really stressed. It's crazy how you can actually get real-time data of what your body is actually doing in real time. And so often we make these choices and we get given these choices like, this is a healthy meal, eat this. And then you go, okay, it's healthy because a whole lot of people said it's healthy, so I must eat this. Put on a CGM and you immediately get a reading, well, okay, it's not really all that healthy. Or those sugar-free drinks that are apparently sugar-free, but then you put on a CGM and you're going, okay, if it's sugar-free, how come there's a huge amount of sugar in my system all of a sudden? Because I don't really know that. You see that. And so then this curve you'll see where we made, you think of you yourself at work. And you go to work, and in the morning, you're really diligent. And you start working, you've had your morning coffee, you're going like mad, you're in that flow state, and it's awesome. And then you go for lunch. And then you have some high carbohydrate meal. And what happens is it spikes your blood sugar. And then after lunch, it's a completely different story. It's like that. And you're like, there. Because what happens is that because of that crash, effectively, to be really simple, your brain effectively turns off because of that crash. And you wouldn't have never known that. You think, no, remember, it was a late light last night, or what he's trying to figure out what in the world's happened, and here's a simple explanation. Don't do that, okay? Because that's what happens. You would have never known that. So it turns the lights on in a dark room. So as I close, I'll close with another cool movie. Here's the challenge. What have you got to lose? Because being able to, as it were, unplug from the matrix and being able to plug into really you, it could take the old version of you and make you better and literally upgrade you. Being able to see finally for the first time how this is affecting you, but more importantly, as I said to you, is how it will affect future you. What is that going to look like? Because the choices that you make today are affecting how your health span will be playing out in 10, 15 years' time. So if you're wanting to know anything else about the company, as you will see, I'm not a representative of any CGM company. So I'm not selling you a CGM. It's more that the technology that's available and what it can actually show you is far-reaching than just, oh, by the way, are you diabetic? It literally touches your hands and feet for everybody. So, yeah, if you're wanting any more, you can scan there. But otherwise, yeah, I appreciate your time, and thank you very much for listening.